He's walking in. It's 6 o'clock, and we will call this meeting to order. We will start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Turpinning.
Here.
McCanny.
Here.
Wendell.
Here.
Cullis.
Here.
Murphy. Hutton.
Here.
Grosvenor.
Here. I'm laughing because I put those minutes you gave me on the top, and all of a sudden it said Ryan Shield, and I was going to say, he's not, wait a minute, what? Okay, little flashback there. Chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda from last month.
I'll second it.
So motion by Grosvenor and second by Wendell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from February 13th, 2025. Are there any additions or deletions? None appearing. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion by Turpinning, second by Grosvenor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our statement of purpose. The mission of the Holly Historic District Commission is to safeguard the heritage of the village of Holly by preserving the historic district in the village that reflects the elements of the village's history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, or culture. The goal of the Commission's work is to stabilize and improve the property values in the historic districts and the surrounding areas, foster civic beauty, strengthen the local economy, and to promote the use of the historic districts for the education, pleasure, and welfare of the citizens of Holly. Next, we will move on to public comment. Members of the public can address the Commission once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Commission may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by majority vote for items on the agenda. Comments may be made after commission discussion prior to commission vote. Prior to addressing the commission, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Anyone wish to participate in public comment? Okay. We will move on to old business. And this would be the HDC guidelines. Did everybody get copies of those?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
I said I do, Mr. Chairman.
Not the, no, the guidelines.
Oh, yes.
Do you have that with you, or?
Yeah, I have.
Did they come in our packet?
Did we produce copies of those, or no? Oh,
No.
I forgot my packet.
you didn't bring your notebook.
I didn't bring my notebook.
It's just small, Mike. I got one.
Pardon?
I got one for him, I think. No, there was nothing, well, it's not the full, it's just the, we do have this is just the agenda minutes.
Okay,
But there
Well,
was
I can give
nothing
an
else.
update.
You've got what was in it.
I can give an update.
Okay.
So we have, I have the changes from SHPO. I got the format changes done. There is some contextual changes and some shifting around of paragraphs on the inside, and I have not got that done yet. And I also want to correct some of the references to the federal website for the Secretary of Interior's, the references to the 4 levels of rehabilitation. I included that in there. They like that, but they also wanted it kind of moved around, so.
Okay.
Continue working on it. Progress looks good. Comments are very constructive and should become a
Okay, so for the newer members, we've been working on these for a couple of years. Now, I say a couple of years because we had so many months where we didn't have meetings in the middle. But this booklet, when it's complete, this board will, or this commission will approve it. It will go to the village council for final approval. When it gets to the village council, it will have the approval of SHPA as well as our committee. And once they adopt it, this book will be available to people that live in the historic district, and it really tells them everything they need to know. It's complete with pictures and references from Secretary of Interior, and Mr. Ron Campbell's looked at it, so we've had it, we've spent some time on it. And SHPA was very pleased when they looked at the book. They had, oh, excuse me, well, this is Mr. Murphy. Are you coming? Okay. Oh, okay. Nope, we're good. All right.
Point of order? I'm just playing. Go ahead.
No, well, normally I would have just turned it off, but because it was Mr. Murphy, I figured I better answer. He's caught in traffic and he's not able to make it.
Fun with words.
We'll go back to that. So, they liked the book. They had some basic, the way that headings were done, and to make it easier to read, they had some of those suggestions, as Mr. McCanny said, and he's been implementing those and putting it in there. So I think, is it safe to say we'll be ready for approval next month?
Yes. Soft, yes.
A soft yes? Okay. So we can then move on to general business application 2025-001 for a certificate of appropriateness for 104 North Saginaw Street. I'm going to assume that's you folks? Would you like to approach the podium and tell us about your project?
You all have a picture, a rendering. You have a rendering of the marquee as we would like to paint it and just get it up to code. It needs a good paint job is what it needs. Sorry, I got kind of railroaded into, excuse that pun there. Guys couldn't make it, I live a block away. So we want to install a new marquee design. We're not changing the core, we're just painting the outside, adding the new sign in the middle. The boards, the existing message boards will stay the same. We're just going to dress up the front. Doors are going to get refinished. We're trying to get it weather tight. Right now we have, there's draft, the draft comes under the doors and all that right now. And
So is this the photo?
no, this one. That's an old one. I don't know why he put that in there. but-
Okay, so when we heard this was coming to us, I made the statement that I said they've been in front of this board before. And Chris finally found that they had come before the board in January of 2018. And then they were supposed to have a meeting and get together. And apparently, we were able to look in the minutes here, it never came back to the board.
No.
But because I remembered it, because that was part of the request, was they were gonna put that middle piece.
Yeah, we've kind of,
You've abandoned that for now?
yes, that is abandoned.
Okay,
Yes. Yes. Trying to find the.
so at this point, we're just talking paint,
Yeah, it's just a cosmetic fix on the marquee. The display boards to the sides will be, all the trim's gonna get painted to black, is the same as the marquee. That's gonna be Dulux gold on the trim. The doors are gonna get refinished. They need quite a bit of work. The door frames have fallen. We've got a guy that's been working on that.
they don't have any plans for covering the transom window.
No, no, not at all. No, and I
That's
told
I
them,
asked that because all of a sudden that starts to get covered, and it's like, well, we didn't know that was an issue, so I wanna make sure.
no, somebody brought that up, and that was my first, no, we can't do that.
Okay.
That kind of takes away from what the building is, so.
The minute you said you were trying to make it weather-tight and more efficient.
Yeah, the doors aren't weather tight right now.
But the transoms are one of those things that get covered when they're doing that.
Nope, transoms are staying the same. We're working on doing new glass in the doors. It's basically just a refinish. Nothing extensive. Calypso Sign is gonna do all the work.
Sir, why are we abandoning the marquee sign on this?
I'm not sure why they decided. I think it was just too much of a task.
Okay.
We looked into it, it was quite expensive.
The reason I asked, I had questions about that sign, but they're gonna be obviously void at this point.
Yes.
So, that's good.
Are they gonna be making the, excuse me, the existing messaging boards backlit at all?
No,
They're gonna stay
no,
just
stay the same. We took out
electrical there?
all the fluorescent tubing transformers and everything that were inside, we took those out. We looked into that, but that's expensive, very, very expensive, so. We did put a light up underneath. I don't know if you've driven by at night, but there is a light that does shine down on the doors. And we are gonna eventually put soffit underneath, keep the birds out, but other than that, everything structurally is
So
in
we're
really
not
good shape.
taking the marquee down, we're just painting it.
No, just painting it, yep.
So it's gonna be black and gold?
Black,
Yeah,
yep, black,
but it
gold,
wasn't
and then
made
white
clear where it
lettering,
came
yep, that you see there.
Saw the big tower thing, I thought they were putting in.
Well, that's,
I have another question, sir. Are you, or they also aware of the guidelines and requirements regarding not only the overall aesthetics, but also regarding the materials, chemicals, and craftsmanship to be used in this type of?
Everything that's being used, Calypso Sign's gonna do the work, so everything's on the up and up from what I
Just
understand.
curious how we'd be assured, you know, that those standards
Yeah, but I
and
don't wanna do
requirements
that
would be.
Yeah, everything's being done by,
'cause
either Calypso
we
Sign,
were
or we
clear.
have a builder that's gonna be
It's a
doing the
little-
doors and all that, so.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just another note too, the existing message boards, when we have our last open house weekend this weekend. So from after this weekend till probably the middle of October, we use the signage for the village, any events that come up in that. So we let them use it for no cost. We do that as a courtesy.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Or, I keep saying board, from the commission, sorry. Yes, Historic HDC, Historic District Commission.
Sir, can I get your name and address for the minutes?
My name's Rick, last name's Houston, Hueston. I'm at 129 Park Avenue here in
Thank you.
Holland. I am the club secretary too, so,
Oh, you're right behind me.
yeah, right down the street from me.
In the spelling, did you say H-O-E?
Hues.
H-U-E-S.
T-O-N.
T-O-N, thank you.
Are they opposed to backlighting the message boards at all? If we could figure out somehow of doing it?
I can run it by them, and we've never really talked about it as far as backlighting the message boards, but, that would change the whole, I mean, we're leaving what's there
I'm
in
I'm
place.
just figuring out, in my mind, I'm running things through to make a weather, like something that's weather tight, that might not be fluorescent tubing. It might just be like some kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if
strip
it's,
inside it.
you know, I'll be honest with you, that would have to be a cutout. You'd have to cut the steel and make a cavity back there.
Yeah, that's why, because I don't know what's even back there, how it looks.
Oh,
I'm just
it's,
curious.
yeah,
Holly is
it's,
the one with the most energy.
we took out, like I said, we took the guts out, but there was really no easy access to it,
Oh, okay.
so,
All right, that's all I was curious about.
no problem.
So are you redoing all the woodwork around on both sides, you know, where you have your photos and the dates?
We're gonna refinish that and paint those black to match the marquee and the doors.
Oh, 'cause you're
So the doors are getting painted black?
black, they're not gonna
I do
remain.
believe so, yes.
Wait a minute, what,
Oh, maybe no, I could be, I'm wrong there, sorry. No, the doors are not getting painted black.
Okay,
I was
thank
gonna
you
say
for
that,
clarifying that.
that's an issue.
Yeah,
You know, it's obvious that this property has, you know, been through some transitions over the course of history, you know, looking at the original photographs.
well, it was a,
And of course, I'm not privy to, you know, whatever, you know, permits or authorizations or exceptions were given at that time regarding
Sure.
the interior and exterior. I think it's fair to say that, you know, the building still captures the essence of our historical village, and some of the things that were done or changed or modified back in, say, the 70s have, in their own right, become sort of a historical significance here, you know. So, with that said, clearly, you know, the alterated architecture and the changes have, I think, been in keeping with that ideology, you know, the preservation of the historical value.
yeah, we don't want to change the front.
Right.
I mean, we just want to update. It needs a good painting and it needs some refinishing and the doors need work. I mean, we looked at, we actually got a quote to put new doors up and be ADA compliant and all that, but man, that was expensive. We just, yeah. And,
Well, I think, you know, after looking at all the photos and thoroughly looking over the project, you know, for me, you know, after reconciling this request with, you know, the current village guidelines, you know, as they're currently promulgated anyway, and as adopted from the State Department of Interior, I find personally that the project does adhere to required standards, so.
Okay, does that complete the comments from the commission?
So, because the doors are remaining wood, would those frames remain wood as well to match?
I don't think we're doing anything, we're gonna, I mean, they're gonna get
Besides-
refinished,
right,
but
refinishing
we're
them.
not painting those.
Okay.
Okay. Would you care to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
I'm sorry?
All right,
Doug?
Said I'll motion to approve. Is that we're gonna-
Well,
okay, fine, okay.
as we talked about last time, in order to make the motion, we have to use these numbers. They should be in the packet you were given in the beginning.
in lieu of that, someone else can make a motion for the time being until I find it.
Okay. Okay, so I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application number for 104 North Saginaw Street. And we're just gonna use number one, so the property be used as it is historically or been given new use and requires minimum change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Since we're changing the relationships by a couple of microns with the thickness of paint, I think it qualifies.
All right, did you want to support?
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay. Motion by McCanny, support by Commissioner Grosvenor. Any final discussion? None appearing. Can we have a roll call, please?
Turpinning,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wendell,
Yes,
Collis,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Grosvenor.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. You're all set to go.
Thank you, sir.
You'll get a certificate of appropriateness from the office, and you'll be able to move forward, whatever.
All right,
Have a
I
good
don't know
evening.
if they need
Appreciate it.
building permits to go with it. Doesn't sound like it.
thank you, you too.
Are you thinking?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, that'll be
But
left
yes,
up
if
to
he
the
hasn't,
office.
Calypso's doing the work, so if they don't, it'll be coming down the pike.
Yep,
So will you email the club on this or what is it?
that's, you have to
Yes.
ask the village.
Absolutely. Usually, it would be Calypso that would apply for the permit.
Right.
And so, yeah, and then we would issue it to him.
Yeah, I mean, as far as letting the club know.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I will. I'm sorry.
Sir,
That's
Yep.
fine.
But-
Weldon's the one that actually, Weldon Gregor's the one that
Yes.
move forward with this, he couldn't be here tonight.
But
Yes,
be-
I met him, so
I
yeah,
appreciate your patience with me.
sure. I have his
Be-
contact information.
Before you leave, she's saying yes, but I don't see where they put a email address on this
Marquee
form.
black, okay.
Do you want to get one before he leaves?
For, is there a phone number there?
There's a phone number, but there's no email.
You will keep the current front yard frames.
In fact, I'll be honest with you, I don't see a place to put one.
You wanna go with, Mr.
You know what?
Chairman,
Be point of order.
point of order, I guess, I
Yeah.
would say. I just read in there, no little letter they sent to us, because we questioned it one time. It says, we'll keep the current doors and refinish them to match the marquee.
That's why I asked, and he said they weren't going to do that.
He was,
I knew that wouldn't fly.
well, I
Yeah.
just, because on the piece of paper that was with it, so I just want to make sure the commission knew that that was on there, that we said,
We're gonna leave them as is,
okay, no, I just,
refinish, and then everything else.
that's, I just want to make sure, because I don't want no one come back and say, well, it said it in the paperwork.
You want his?
I'll take care of that while
Thank
you guys
you,
are
thank you,
continuing on.
thank you.
And actually, because Mr. Wendell brought it up, would you like to amend the motion to include that, so that it's clear?
Yeah, I'm in the, what number motion was it? Was it number one, or the application?
Just make an amendment to the motion,
I'd just like to make an amendment to the motion that,
that the doors will not be
the
painted.
doors will not be painted to match the marquee, they'll be refinished.
Is there support?
Support?
I'll support that, yes.
I already
Okay.
did.
Oh, all right. So the amendment is to, doors to be refinished, not painted. Motion by Wendell, support by Turpning. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amendment is passed.
I know he didn't mention anything about those things, the sign holders on each side of the doors, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to put that in there or that.
They didn't put anything in here, so they can't do anything to them. They didn't ask for anything. Now, I do want to clear, just for Chris and Mr. Price,
Before, George, we gotta excuse, Josh.
let me get there. Let me finish
Oh,
this
I didn't
before
want
I
you to
move on.
forget, that's all.
So, just for clarification, because all they're doing is painting, and minus the part about the doors, because I was asked if this needed to come to the HDC, and I said yes. Part of it was because of that marquee, the centerpiece, and at that time, nobody was able to tell me whether it was or wasn't. But the reason I said no, that it needed to come is because the first sentence says, install new marquee design. That made me believe they were taking the marquee off and putting a new one on. So Mr. McCanny brought it to my attention. I said, I feel kind of bad. We could have done it administrative if the information had been correct.
Right,
I just wanted you to know that for future reference,
okay,
because
thanks.
that's what triggered my saying it had to come here, because it makes it sound, when they say install new marquee, that's different than painting it.
Absolutely.
So, all right. I mean, I'd rather have them here and err on the cautious side than not, but I did want to clarify that. Okay? Before we go to presentation, because of that phone call from Mr. Murphy, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Murphy from the meeting.
I'll make the motion to excuse Mr. Murphy.
You can support it. I already made it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll support it.
Motion by Cullis, support by Wendell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes care of that. Now, we will go on to our presentation. Ron Campbell from Oakland County is here. The microphone is yours, sir.
Hello, Mr. Crawford, how are you, sir? Good to see you again.
I have to say, I am impressed. I wish, and this is, you have a great commission here. I thought you had the right questions, you came to the right conclusions. It was just well done. I wish commissions throughout Oakland County would operate as efficiently and as correctly as you did, so.
Well, good.
We appreciate that, sir.
We'll take that compliment. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
No, and I
Particularly
sincerely
from you,
mean it
sir.
too.
Yeah.
Sincerely mean it.
George, make sure to pay him later.
Huh?
Yeah, make sure to pay him later, too.
Yeah.
I'll bring your car around.
Didn't you see me to pass the money to him when I came in? Just be sure to relate that to Miss Brandon, would you?
I'll make sure to do that, George.
In your report.
Ron has been our trainer for many years.
No, no, what?
We heed his training well, and he does a really good job on his presentation, so make sure everybody pays attention, because that's how we are that good, because we bring.
Payback time, I guess.
That's your money coming.
Yeah, that's the money.
And it also helps that, at least, it helps that the people that are on this board have traditionally stayed on this board. And as you gather that knowledge, it becomes useful.
How long have you been on this?
I've been on it since, I think, either 10 or 11.
Yeah, you were, yeah.
Yeah.
You've been on it
Your
since
age?
11, I think.
Yeah,
He's been on since 10 or 11.
and Mike came on right after me.
When does the retirement package?
So we lost, we had Richard Putz on here for a while, but then he suddenly passed away, as did Bill DeSessa. So we've lost a couple of good members on this board, but Mr. Turpin's been with us for what, 6?
Yes.
Yeah, so it helps as you gather the knowledge. It also helps, Bill and I went to, they have an annual conference, we held one here in Holly. It helps when you go to those, they have breakout sessions, they talk about specific cases. Ron's done some excellent trainings for us, so that's helped as well
Wonderful.
on there. Which, by the way, let me interrupt your presentation, that hasn't started yet. I had put a call out to you a week ago or so and asked you to call me back. And that call was because the registration for the annual conference is out. In the past, we've had $500 to use to help defray the cost of that. I know the village can't afford to pay the whole thing. I was wanting to find out if that was the case again this year.
I can pull up and check if they have that allocated.
Okay,
I can probably
because
do
if
it.
it's available, then it's a question of who went, last time Bill and I went, we split the 500 between the two of us for registration. Depending on how many people want to go, we'll look at it that way. This year it's in,
Sault Ste. Marie,
it's up in Sault Ste. Marie. I've been there, is it at Lake State?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I've been up there. Bill and I were in Traverse City, it's been in Kalamazoo, it's been right here in Holly, Michigan. So we've had to move around.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Okay, are you controlling the?
Yeah,
Okay.
control it. Just so we don't lose it.
Okay.
Or try not to.
That's
Live
great.
and learn.
We have backup this week.
I'm gonna move out that way, this is too close.
I'm trying to pick up where we left off, or where the program was interrupted last time, so we'll go, but anytime you're ready, we can advance it. A little different tonight, in the sense that, we can advance it. I'm gonna have, towards the end, we're gonna get out of all this stuff, and we're gonna do some testing, okay? See what you think. First of all, just kind of the roles and responsibilities of the commissioner. Remember that as a historic commissioner, your role is to protect the historic districts. You didn't create them, you didn't say they were historic. That was another whole study committee that did that. But your role is really to make sure that the changes that are bound to happen, just like tonight, are in conformance with the Secretary of Interior standards. And as you can read there, as an HDC commissioner, you're required to operate in accordance with local and state laws, Open Meetings Act and all that. HDC commissioner, you're required to review all the exterior changes to a property or structures. Exterior, nothing to do with the interior, just prior to work being undertaken. Just as tonight, you had to give your approval for it to go to the building code department for their stamp of approval, making sure that it meets all the requirements of the building codes. And then you're required to determine if it meets the Secretary of Interior standards, and that's what you just did tonight. So, again, you did an outstanding job, I think. National Historic Districts identifies, local historic districts protects. Does that make sense? There's really no protection under the federal being listed as a National Register. There are perks to being on the National Register, financial perks, in terms of tax credits and things like that. Michigan also now has for tax credits for individuals in residential structures. The federal tax credits only apply to commercial enterprise. Okay. If you take that historic tax credit, then there are some rules and regulations, the same ones that you're approving. It goes to the National Park Service, and they will look at it as you did and complete their review and either approve it or make changes. It's nice if we can make sure that what you approve goes and is approved then by the federal government. It always becomes questionable when one group says, yes, it's approved, and no one says, no, it's not. So that's why it's important to make sure you check all the, cross all the Ts and dot all the Is. So you're applying the Secretary of Interior standards, you're ensuring the process is consistent, just, and equitable in every applicant. If there's a conflict of interest, best practice, recluse yourself. Remove yourself from voting, and sometimes, I guess, even from the room if it becomes appropriate. Don't participate in the swaying of the jury, I guess, better way to put it. And you should know and understand the Secretary of Interior standards, which I think was exhibited tonight. You had your little checkbox there. And it's important to have an understanding of local history and the significance of the structures being reviewed. You mentioned about the theater being an iconic image here in town, and what they did is keeping that character. Now, I haven't seen the proposed work, but that's exactly what you're doing, is making sure that it retains that character. Let's say be familiar with the architectural styles. You don't necessarily have to know them by name. It helps to just know what you're talking about. And what we'll cover tonight is what are the significant elements of different pieces of architecture. And that will be what the quiz is tonight. And then prepare yourself for the public meeting by reviewing the application prior and even visiting the site. And again, avoid the appearance of conflict of interest. Okay, the Secretary of Interior standards, and this is basically what you have tonight. I think the little check boxes, that's what you looked at. Property shall be number 1. It's always ideal to have the same use going into a structure, just from a standpoint that requires less change. The greater the change in use, the greater, the greater the chance of having an enormous change to the structure and to the exterior. For example, a church carving it up into dental offices is probably not the best thing for it. On the other hand, having another church, a library, something like that, would be more appropriate for those larger spaces. Historic character, it's a 3-step process. The first 2 involves the visual character as overall, what's the shape, the openings, the roof, related features, projections, trim, and also the setting in the site and surrounding. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then the second one is you move in closer. What are the materials and the craft details? The third one is interior, and again, we're not really concerned with that because that's something that you don't rule on. It's only the exterior. 3 is the property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time. And I think that was brought up tonight, is that back in the 70s, this marquee was modified, and you're absolutely right. About 50 years is just about time that it's become historic in its own right. So you don't really have the ability to necessarily make the applicant restore it fully, but they're taking it within the realm it is right now, or what it was approved as. But you can use this to and I meant to bring some examples, I can do this next time. We had a house on College Street, and they wanted to put a porch on it. And if you recall, once we got the contractor to take off the siding, we could see a ghost image of where that porch went. And that's what we restored it to, because it's physical evidence. So I call them ghost images, people take other things, but you know what I mean. To see where the roof line was, you can see the tar that was built up. So there's always little key factors like that that you can check on. Those changes have acquired, just as the change in the marquee left. There's a house in Clarkston, the Clark House. Interesting, beautiful Greek revival, two-story Greek revival. And then they put on a kind of arts and crafts side wing. Totally, it probably wouldn't fly by a historic commission today, but at the time it was done, it's become historic now. It was probably put on in the early 1900s. So it's become historic, and it was evaluated that way as part of the National Register designation. And a high school in Holly. We remember the high school, right? It's now the vault, part of the vault collection. Ah, yes. I think people, for the most time, thought the addition, the wall, the portion of the building to the east was an addition. In fact, it wasn't. The research showed that it was the building to the west, the two-story brick building, that was the addition. And it was the building on the east that was most significant because it was done by a architect out of Chicago that became the school architect for the nation.
Just for clarification, that's the west, that's the south end.
South end, okay.
It's the south
The,
end.
the stucco, yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Very cutting edge, never been done like that before. I mean, these were schools that were one-room schools, and to have this, and this was written up in national publications. So again, the research showed that what we thought, and everybody thought, was the addition was actually the original building. So, never know, never know. Distinctive features, finishes, they shall be preserved. I mean, that's kind of self-evident in itself. Again, you've heard me say repair rather than replace. Boy, did that get the whole? Okay, now we're up. And that's throughout the, anytime that we can repair, it's better because it saves the original piece of architecture and the fabric of the building. You know, it makes a lot of sense now because more people want to be green. They want to avoid the landfills and everything going in landfills. And historic preservation was at the forefront of all this sustainable design and cutting down waste. So you're doing your job. 7, chemical or physical treatments such as sandblasting. That really, just be very cautious of that. Some of these constructions do more harm than good. Even the mortar type, when this happened, I was helping students at Detroit Public Schools on historic Fort Wayne. Years ago in the early 70s, they completely repointed the exterior of Fort Wayne using the wrong mortar. And the bricks started crumbling within 10, 15 years. And that was meant to be a good thing to do, but they did it with the wrong methods. So service cleaning, just watch it, be appropriate. Make sure it's using the gentlest means possible, which they usually start out with just soap and water. Garden hose pressure is often used. And then if it gets a little more stubborn than that, the stain or the graffiti, there are some other methods that we can use. Just stay away from sand blasting. That was the first thing. Then they came out with water blasting. Then they're blasting with corn cobs and peanut shells and anything now. But it's very abrasive, very abrasive. Archaeological, you say, yeah, we probably don't have much in in Holly or any developed area for that matter. But lo and behold, what happened in Rochester? They're doing a streetscape and they run across a well in front of one of the buildings. And it was kind of a community well there in downtown Rochester, built, they figure somewhere in 1880, 1890. And they modified the streetscape, so now that well was rebuilt, they put a light in it and a glass top over it. So anybody walking through downtown now can see that 1880s well that was in the middle of town. So you never know what you're gonna run into. I know, let's see, we got, property owners from adding on. Oh yeah, historic preservation, it doesn't say you can't add on to a historic structure, and I think you've done a good job of that too. Just again, where's that addition placed? Is it gonna detract from the, we have some examples of that too. You just don't wanna lose the original resource. And I can't really add much to this. The only example I have is, years ago I worked on Lapeer County Courthouse, 1846. This is a wood frame building, Great Revival, huge two-story piers that flanked either side of the door. And that was saved in a 1930s WPA project when they enclosed, gave it a little weather lobby, and they added a judge's office on the second floor. So it was a kind of enclosure. We went to put in an elevator, and lo and behold, we tore off one of the walls, and there's the original pilasters. Well, we're not gonna destroy those, so we actually encapsulated them, preserved them, and put the elevator within that enclosure, but still protecting the pilasters. The idea is that, well, maybe someday we won't need an elevator. Who knows? And if we don't, or they have a better way of doing it, we can take that elevator off and that front is going back exactly as it was in 1846. So those are the things you want to look for. Okay, got some case studies. This is the first one. Here's these row houses. They're connected at the sides. Any evaluation of their, now this is right from the Secretary of Interior standards and some of the cases they reviewed. So the question is here, what is the primary character defining aspect of these row houses when viewed like this? Is it the materials? Is it the openings? Or is it projections?
That's the projections.
I feel like it's all three.
Okay, you can only pick one though.
Okay, I can only pick one. I'm gonna go with
Yes.
materials. I pick A.
Okay,
I would agree with Doug.
materials.
I still
Anybody
say
else?
C.
Well, okay, let's see, it comes up. I think if you hit it again, and it's C, projections.
Live and learn.
And I think what they were, and I think what they were saying is, look at the difference between the one on the very left, that little turret, and the one on the right. That one that has become dark has kind of lost the character. Totally lost the character as the one on the left. And then you have the two projections down below. Now, I tend to, say, well, yes, it could be the materials because it's all the same material. Right?
Color makes a big difference.
Color makes a big difference, and it kind of blends in. The uniformity of it blends in, and you've lost that once that one on the left was painted.
It also looks like the one on the left doesn't have the, I call it an upside down Hershey kiss.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't tell if that's there or not in this picture. I don't know if it is or not, but.
No, and you're absolutely right. The dark colors will tend to eliminate shadows. And sometimes it's those shadows on a light background really tend to pop it out. We have a situation in Pontiac where they want to replace windows in a building and they want them dark against the light building. But the original windows were almost the same color as the building. And when they put in a sample window, you've lost any detailing, it just becomes a mass of
Dark.
dark. Whereas the original ones, that little shadow lines, you can see it, and you can see the detailing in the windows, that's lost when you paint it. Anyway, so that's that one. Okay, next question. Building site. Based on the information you see, what would you say would be the key contributing to the overall visual character in this neighborhood scene? Is the shape, the building site, or openings?
B.
Yeah, I would have to go with A myself.
I said, Doug and I are on the same page again. We might be wrong twice. I would say building site because you said it before we started the slide.
Oh, did I?
That's why I said.
You're
B.
right.
I didn't catch me to say that.
You're right, it is building site. This one, it's a little tricky because it's one of the circles. And if you looked at it in the air or in person, you would see the circle as the two streets splayed off of it. And it led to the architectural design, right? It was making its way around the corner.
I was gonna say, in fairness to us, yeah.
Yeah. So,
We'll still give it to Mr. Price.
okay, well, yes, and he's
Hey,
good, he's really
I said it
good.
first.
He's really good. Okay. Now, based on this one, this is a depot. What's the most important character defining aspects of this historic railroad station? Materials and roof, roof projections and openings, or the openings and roof?
B.
B.
Oh, you guys are catching on, okay, okay.
Come on,
you're right.
George.
Yes, it's B. Roof openings and, or roof projections and openings, yep.
Because it casts more of their shadows. with the,
Yes, good point. It's the shadows which really define that.
Well, it draws your eye to it.
Yeah,
If it was flat, you wouldn't even pay attention to anything, any of the architectural work or anything like that.
yep. And can you imagine painting that building black? You've lost all that character, right? Yeah. Okay, good. You guys are catching on now. Oh, this one's a tough one. Now, we not have too many stucco buildings in, in Holly or in the Midwest, but what is the significant materials? What's the special character of mission-style buildings? Materials, openings, or the roof?
C.
Okay. Did I say materials first? Oh, gee, he is good. Yeah, it's materials.
Final words.
Okay, I have to watch how I say this because,
So basically what you're saying is Tim's good at cheating.
but he gets the right answers.
Never paying attention.
And I think, you know, the roof, but that's, again, a material. You know, what gives it its character is the tile. So it's a material and a stucco. That's the important thing.
We have one house in Holly that has the roof, but doesn't have the stucco.
Yeah. A lot of Mediterranean, it was a style popular in the 20s, would have a tile roof. They last a long time, tile roof. Okay.
That looks familiar.
It looks familiar. And you can see the depot there at the very lower right-hand corner of the picture.
Kind of blurry.
Yeah, a little blurry. We had to take this, we wanted to move it, right? We had to get permission from the National Park Service to keep it on the National Register. And so we developed a plan for it. Now, if I brought that plan to you, and let's see, I may, yeah, let's go to the next slide. If I brought you this plan, how would you evaluate it?
I'll say that's not the right positioning for it now.
It's on sideways.
Yeah, I turned it a little bit. So we moved it up to the front. how would you begin your evaluation?
It's orientation to the tracks.
Good, yes. That's one of them. Now, remember, you go back into the history, right? What's the history of the station? It's a Union Depot serving more than one railroad.
Correct.
So what they wanted to make sure is, okay, we want to see two railroads on either side of it. Now, we had some people say, well, why don't we turn it, put it right up at the sidewalk? What would you say to that?
It would lose everything, because it only looked like it handled one railroad.
Exactly, exactly. See, these guys are good. You guys- So, and that's exactly what they said. But they came back and they also said, we want it parallel with the, what would that be, the southernmost track,
The CN track?
the CN track. Why? Because it's with that now. The other one was always on the curve. Now, they didn't care necessarily where it went in a north-south direction, but they wanted to make sure that the orientation was the same and it was parallel with the CNN track. And it stayed between. Moving it, to a park, that was one consideration at one time. It probably would have lost its designation. And that's why the village then said, well, let's buy these two parcels there. And we just, one, the move is cheaper, and we've kept the historic designation. It's a very important depot, being a Union depot, and it played a national significance during the Civil War because it was the northernmost stop or station, railroad at the time, and that's where all the men came to board the train, make it their way to Detroit, and finally into Washington. So that's the history. Okay, I brought this one. This is the last one. I bring this to you. I got graffiti. Somebody tagged it overnight, over the holiday, and what do? I want to get this off. I'm going to sandblast it. Oh, well, what can I do? What can I get it off with?
Well, soap and water.
Dawn dish soap.
Okay, good. And what kind of pressure can I use?
Very low pressure.
Usually a garden hose.
That's why I said very low.
Yep, usually. And they also specify, and there's another thing, as you get into this, there's preservation briefs. You could Google that. And they have 51 bulletins, and it covers everything from windows to code to energy efficiency to masonry care. It really gets in depth, and it's preservation. It's put out by the National Park Service. And you can see that this ball needs more help right now than just cleaning the graffiti out. The brick at the top looks like it's lost a lot of its tuck pointing or the mortar. And on older buildings, remember, this is what the mortar was all about. It was meant to,
Hold it together.
well, hold it together, but it was also meant to expel the water. And that's why you would have to repoint it every so often, because it was releasing the moisture from the building. This is a solid wall. It wasn't until the 50s that we came up with cavity walls. And it allowed for a whole different, it created different problems than what we had at the time of 1900. It also gave us new brick techniques in laying, so.
So that wall is basically, when you say it, not a cavity wall, it's just the inside of that building is the same that is the outside of that building inside.
Yeah, but usually
feed, but
what
it's
they
just-
call 2 or 3 weights of block or brick.
You usually put two sets of brick back to back.
Yep, and you can see, hope you can, every so often you'll see the end brick. You see the end of the brick?
Yeah, I see the bottom's a lighter color and the top's different, and then.
Yeah, but you'll see, even in both of those, you'll see the end, not the length of the brick, but the end of the brick.
So like
Yeah,
that.
you got it.
Yeah, those are right at the tiger color trying.
Yep. But those are the ties. That's
To
tying
tie
that wall.
the two walls, so
Yes. So, And that's where we get the same spacing they put those bricks is where we put our ties today. Interesting. I mean, they put, low pressure, I mean, that's it. Now, there are some chemicals, you have to test them, but they do allow some. But take the gentlest mean possible at first and see how it goes. You guys, you can go party now, okay? You did a good job.
Thanks again, Ron, enjoy your
Hey, Ron? Ron, I got a couple questions for you, though. On the one slide that you had with the depot on it, having the, where they replacing that, no, one more. I know, that one.
Yeah,
Like, they're bushes, they're having bushes and everything. Now, should we have that stuff be close to as that era as possible?
well, yeah, and I'll tell you why we had that tree row there. Because of the tree row that went from downtown to the depot, remember along the walk?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Yep.
should we have like the same sort of trees that were there before, or should we
Yes.
put evergreen trees there, or,
Yeah,
you know?
no, I'd keep the deciduous trees. In fact, before they cut them down, they gathered the seeds off of them.
That was very smart of them, then.
It was, and that was an idea that came out of this. Well, we know that they're not gonna grow that quick, but you'll have kind of the relative of the trees that were there originally. And those trees had to be removed. Some were diseased, some were just in the way of getting the depot moved. But, yeah, we always look for things like that, you know, it was to tie that, trees in to replicate the walk, a little shorter, but, yep, good observation.
All right? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, that'll lead us to commission and staff comments. I'll start with Mr. Wendell.
As you get, I am on the village council. Last night I was voted to go on to the depot move committee, I guess you could call it. I don't know the official name of it yet.
We actually changed the name of it and their mission slightly last night to be the Depot Relocation and Restoration Committee.
Okay.
Now they got moved to, I'm on that committee now too. Which they thought would be a good idea because it ties in with us here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is that it for you?
That's it for me.
Mr. Turpney?
No comments, sir.
Okay. Go down here to Mr. Grosvenor.
No comments.
Ms. Hutton?
No comments.
And Mr. McCanny?
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh, George, one quick, I forgot, the building I was talking to you about over here, it is right in a historical district, but it was cited before. I don't know if it was cited before it became a historical building in our district, but it is in the district.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have to look in and find out why that didn't come to this board. All right, so under the commission staff comments, I've got three. First of all, you saw this map. I'm gonna hold it up for the, where's the camera? Back here for the camera. This map in the brown areas shows the current historic district. A few years back, we were working on expanding the district. It was determined by the state SHPA office that at the time the districts were established, they allowed people to opt in and opt out, and that's not supposed to happen. And that got brought to our attention because there was somebody that had a home in the district that said, I'd like to opt out because my neighbor said he got to opt out. And that's not how they work. They're supposed to be complete. It's not a pick and choose. So the village manager, myself, Joe Mishler, then village president, he's passed away since then.
McKinney,
No, Jeff Miller,
oh,
even before Tom. Jeff Miller and Ardith Reagan, we went to Lansing and met with them and brought it up, and they gave us a plan to come back and to fix this, and we started working on it. Chris, were you able to find the two black notebooks I told you about?
no,
Okay, so we need to locate those because each one of these houses is supposed to have a workup. It shows historical pictures, it talks about the house, the architecture. Ron, you talked about architecture on the buildings, and if it changes over the years. The house that I live in, if you ever drive down Park Avenue and look at the back of the house and the carriage house is Greek Revival. The front of the house is Italianate. The house got started in the 1860s. Sorensen went off to the Civil War. In the 1860s and into the 70s, Italianate was the new architecture. He saw it on the East Coast, came back here, and decided that's what he wanted to put on the front of the house. So you have Greek Revival on the back, Italianate on the front. If you look across the street, that house came in the 1880s. It's Italianate from the front all the way to the back. So you can see the difference in those two houses of what happens when you switch the architecture. But that tells the story because our house was started before and finished after the Civil War on that. So this map shows the area that the committee worked on. Sue Less was in charge of that committee. She's part of the Historical Society. I talked to her this week. They turned over the documents and the photos that they had. She did not keep copies of the documents, but she does have the photos that were taken, each of them with addresses of the house. And we had done, I think the only people on the commission at the time were Mr. McCanny and myself. We actually did tours of this area and talked about what we felt needed to stay or not stay. There was a couple of spots where we felt that a house should be added. There was another area that we didn't feel was as significant as the committee had shown. And we were working on getting this in order. And then, like I said, everything kind of fell sideways. I know at the time, Mr. McKinney, was not a fan of the historic district, and we didn't get a lot of headway on that. But I think it's important that we get that done and put this together. And Sue's going to be getting that information to me. If we can find those black notebooks, that certainly would be a big help. There were two of them. They were thick like this, and they were just those acetate pages,
Okay,
one house at a time.
I'll
They
take a look.
used to, at Carl Richter at one time, they used to sit in the community center room on that table in the corner.
Okay,
But I don't know what happened to them in the move or over time. But those are there. So that's what this map was about. You'd heard me talk before about having a larger one. This is the bigger one. And these came from the One-Stop Shop. And there was one even bigger than this that was on a hardboard. We used to be able to set it up with an easel. I don't know whatever happened to those, but that's what's there. The other thing under my comments, if you can give us an update, what's going on with the buildings downtown?
So, as far as the facades, or
So
the
the building-
windows,
So the first one would be the building next to Ziggy's,
yes.
where he just recently tore the windows out of the
Yeah.
back and changed that without coming to the
Yeah,
HDC.
so Kurt and I, we had spoken with Ron about it a little bit. We went down there, we took some pictures. One of the problems that we're facing with that is that, the windows that are there, they've been replaced with vinyl or, vinyl interior things. But if you look at almost all of the second story along, Saginaw up there, many of them have been replaced. And so, and also the owner, that has changed ownership. And so one of the questions is how can we, at what point do we go back to if we're gonna try to do, like code enforcement on this? I mean, obviously, going forward, we're gonna do it and we're supposed to do it. But looking back, like how do we actually
Okay,
go
but
back
that
to
was just done within the that was just months ago. That was in the fall. And he was told at the time that it was wrong. So now you're telling me we're not gonna go after that? My question for you then becomes, we held RHL, the building right next to it, connected to it, to the standards. So the message we're sending is if you come in and do it on a weekend when we're not here, you'll get away with it. I have a real issue with that. I'm just telling you right up
I
front.
understand. Yeah.
Now, the building on the front that's changed ownership, This commission's been complaining about that back when it happened. I know that there are buildings on that side that had been changed out, but those were before. And we can't do anything until it comes up. But these are more recent ones, these two buildings. And we held, the coffee shop got held to the standards, they were made to work with you. Bob Hoffman's building on the end was held to the standards. Rory had to do Blackthorn, Avia had to do theirs. Everybody's been held to these standards. What bothers me is when these people sneak in on the weekend and nobody's paying attention and they pull it. That's what they did on the art. I use the art store because that's, everybody knows what we're talking about. It's not them, but it's that building. But that building and the gentleman on Battle Alley, he did this once before on the front of the building. And he had to come back, and we lost those windows because he'd already thrown them out. Now he's done it again after he knows, same owner. And I just have a real, you start to ask yourself, why are we gonna be here? Why do we have the right to hold certain people to standards and other people get to get away with it? That's an issue I had. I don't know how the rest of the commission
I
feels.
concur.
No, I agree 100%. If we're gonna hold one person to a standard, we gotta hold everybody to the same standard.
I agree.
So
I mean-
so just a quick, I don't wanna extend the meeting to a crazy extent, but, Mr. Ron, what would be their next steps? Cause we do have backing from Secretary of Interior that we can move forward and assign the cost to putting the building back to where it's supposed to be, back to the, either tax rolls or a tax lien on the building. What are the next steps after this?
I guess coordination with the city, probably involve a review at the state level. They would probably side with you and saying it was done illegally, and you could force them to replace the windows.
So we could take it as a board, or a commission, sorry, didn't mean to swear. As a board, take it to the state, and then take it to the federal, if we're getting no backup from the village?
I mean, I think the state would rule on it themselves.
Okay.
As a review board, and saying, what can we do? And I think they would be able to say yes, and force the owner to replace those windows.
Mr. Cable, how far back could we go on that? Because if you look on up there, I would say 70% of the windows on the upper story have been replaced at one time, and are not currently historic on second level. And I don't know if this is within a year, 5 years, 10 years. So at what point can you go back and hold them to that standard?
I think as far back as, I guess would be reasonably acceptable. I mean, we don't know when those windows were replaced. We do this, in this particular case.
I was gonna say they were replaced before, because we live here, we watch it, we
Yeah.
see it. They haven't been replaced in the last weeks. But those two buildings, we brought it up right when they were done. We brought it up in the middle of him doing it. And that was in the fall, and here we are in March, and we still don't know what we're doing. If I were Randy Redmond, I would be livid, because he was in here, complained about it, had to send his windows back and order the right windows, and had to do the whole thing. And his building is literally connected to that building. I don't understand why we continue to allow this. The other building, we've been bringing it up for 3 years. I understand the guy bought the building that way. We were after the previous owner, and the village it just didn't go anywhere. And that one's even worse because they don't even match, they're not even consistent. It's this one, that one's different, that one's different. You're gonna have another building come in front of this commission, in my guess is not too far away, when they go to replace the arcade. And that's gonna be a brand-new building, but it still has to be held to the standards of the alley. And I don't know how we argue that and hold people to those standards, when they can stand right there and go, well, that guy got away with it, that guy got away with it. And this weekend, this coming in on the weekend and doing it because nobody's paying attention.
George, can I ask a question?
Yeah?
Just like how the railroad railroad thing came in today, the Detroit Railroad Modeling Club. They came in to get our approval on something, kinda like a, I can't think of the word now, but, building code permit. You know, don't we have that we have some of that has to stay in record with that building? Or any buildings that are in our historical society?
Yeah, and what George is saying is that people are not pulling permits, they're just doing it on the weekend.
And then if people do it on the week, if I was to go roof my house on a Saturday, and then the building inspectors are coming on Monday and say, that's not the same roof, I got fines and everything to pay. Why can't we hold the same people, the same accountability to these people? Because it's like the district,
And I think it's important, it's like Ron said, if you want to debate it with us, we can take it to the state and let them make a decision. But we're either community of laws or we're not.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing that we disagree on this. I mean, we agree that, you know, people shouldn't be doing this. And but the question was that we were proposing when Kurt and I originally talked to you was how far back can we go? And at what point do we start? Because the other thing is if we bring it to court and, you know, it gets turned down or we get, or it gets nullified, then what does that do for our standards then going forward? Like, are we able to enforce anything at that point in the historic district like that? And so that was one of the points that was brought up.
Well,
or
this
discussed.
isn't court like district court, this
Yeah.
is with the state SHPO office.
But it could end up in district court.
It could, okay.
okay, with that guy coming on the weekend though, I don't see why we can't say to him, no, you gotta pay a fine, put it back the way it was. The guy who bought his building and they were already replaced, we can't really say to him, hey, you got the wrong end of the stick.
Yeah.
We can say shame on
But
ourselves.
then the strategy comes, okay, I'll form a company, I'll put the building in another company, we'll make the changes, I'll bankrupt that company and sell it to another company. There, bingo, bango, renovation's done. It's just a back door to get another renovation done. And in the meantime, the entire reason why everybody loves the downtown is because of the historical features, windows, doors, shapes, protrusions, roof types, and every window and every door that gets replaced, we lose it. So
And-
somebody needs to stand up and go, no, put it back.
Well, I remember.
Sorry for your luck.
They have to get a building permit. So, they not only violated the HDC, but they violated the building code.
Right.
Exactly.
And you kind of have to work in tandem with the building code department.
Right, well, and then,
They may have
and
more
I'm gonna go back and say it again. We make certain people adhere to these rules, and it's not cheap. I know, I own a historical home. I'm spending a great deal of money right now, and that was gonna be my last comment. We're starting this dining room ceiling project, and if anybody would like, when you leave this meeting tonight, if you wanna come across the street and take a look at it to see the before and the after, you're welcome to. But we're pulling the whole ceiling down and we're replacing it, because over the years it got drywall pieces here and there to fix things, and the ceiling was just to a point where it either needed to be taken all the way out, and it's like the guy said that's doing it. He said typically what would happen in these houses, they would just strip it all out and drywall it. Well, it doesn't go with the character of the rest of the house. So we made the decision. We waited 2 years for this guy, and he's coming in and redoing the plaster. The whole ceiling's coming down. He's gonna repair the cornices where they're damaged, and when he's all done, he'll put the rosette back in the middle of the dining room, which has been gone because it got taken out back. He figures, it's amazing what these people can do. He said this was done in the 60s, this was done in, they can tell by the materials and the brand name of the drywall. He said they haven't made this since then, but that's the kind of stuff we're doing. And I just have a real problem because that was brought to our attention when it happened. That was Bill DeSessa, that was the one that sat in the coffee shop and watched it. And we brought it to the attention, and these things just get ignored. And now the one next to Ziggy's just happened in the fall. And I kept thinking we were gonna see it back here. And now we've gone another, 6 months without doing anything, and I don't understand why. And
Well, if we're not, if we're not gonna do anything, then we just need to dissolve the commission. There's really no need for it. We hold the residents to these standards. We grill them, change them, come back with new design. But if it's a business in town, well, you get to do, sure, wow, no worries. Then we don't need a commission because the residents are more important than the businesses, as far as I think. And so if we can't enforce this, we're not gonna enforce it, kill it.
If we can't enforce it across the board, just
Just
end it.
kill it, we don't need it.
I do think there's cause for concern when, you know, the proper administrative permits aren't being pulled, much less, you know, HDC guidelines not being followed. But the whole idea that folks are building and doing these things without pulling administrative permits is quite concerning to me, I would say.
And especially the one gentleman in Battle Alley, this isn't his first rodeo. He did this 10 years ago.
And it's not so much that they're pulling or doing this without it, but where's the bite to the bark? That's what, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're up here barking, but yet we look like a bunch of cowards when we go out there with our tail between our legs because, oh, you guys are pushovers.
So I guess, so the question was specifically on those properties, like what are we doing about
Yeah,
it?
we went a little
And
sorry,
so,
sorry about that.
yeah, it's all right. And so it was.
Point of order.
The question was never like, what are we doing moving forward as far as like, because that is the question that I've been asking of like code enforcement and, you know, the building official is like, how do we go forward and make sure we're protecting and preserving what we're doing?
We need to bring the character of the building back to the point
And-
where it's obviously not a vinyl window from Anderson Windows.
Yeah, and so one of the things we were,
And the shapes have been changed.
yes, absolutely. It's no longer the, what is the, not oblique shape, what was the arch on the top. There's a
Arches, yeah.
specific term
Well,
for it. but-
they made them shorter, you know, because they're
the
long.
original building, yes, they completely
Yeah.
changed the openings.
They just changed the opening for a more convenient, cheaper window.
So we've been talking about like how are we gonna look at preventing, you know, people doing this weekend stuff, like, you know, putting people on the weekends, doing drive-by kind of stuff to check, you know, during, you know, peak building seasons, all of these things. How are we moving forward? And then also, how are we going back and fixing the mistakes that have happened in the past? And so, and sometimes, again, these have been one business owner, two business owners, one resident, two residents have, you know, all shifted. And so how do we hold them responsible for something that previous owners have done? And so that's where we were looking at what facade grants can we get that we can offer to some of these business owners, say, hey, we want to bring this back up to historical standards, and we want to do it, and here is an incentive for you to do this, to have this like preservation, restore some of the personality that this building had. To no fault of your own that you didn't realize when you purchased it. And so those are things that we're looking at, like how can we incentivize this rather than just only look at punitive measures for something that, again, if you look, I mean, I know you're saying when are we choosing to hold the standard, but if you look, a lot of it's, like I said, go down, look at the second story, and you're gonna see 70–80% of the windows have already been done like that. Whether or not, some of them look period correct, some of them don't at all. So, at what point are we starting to hold the standard? And what we were saying, well, we're gonna start holding it right now, and we're gonna figure out how are we gonna go back and fix some of these other things that have happened previous. So it's not like we're saying, hey, it's gonna be willy-nilly from now on. We're just saying, now we're holding everyone to the standard, and we're gonna, you know, but I've been here for 2 months. And so, you know, that's, you know, the conversations that Kurt and Chief Watson and I have been having on this.
I can appreciate that for some of the older ones.
Yeah.
But not the guy right now.
No,
I
the
don't
guy
buy
in
that.
Battle Alley, that's
No, if he's already done it
biting my
once to
tongue.
us,
Because that was, he knew exactly what he was doing.
especially if he's done it to us once,
Well, I think we communicated that, and it's understood, and village management's got it in their court now. So we also have a path forward with the possibility of state action, and we'll just wait and see. But here we are again, waiting and seeing. Let's not go sideways, hold on. Okay. So I think we made the point, it's communicated, it's in the minutes. Let's move on.
Fair enough.
Anybody else have any additional comments?
No comments here.
Okay, then we can look to adjourn this meeting at 7:20.